People move on in jobs, you know. It's always rather sad, isn't it? Particularly when they've looked after someone that you've genuinely admired for so many years. Just 2 months ago now, this particular gentleman, Sir Edward Young, who was, well, one of the people that truly, alongside Angela Kelly, did dedicate their life to looking after our late and wonderful monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, decided to step down and retirement. Naturally, he was very nicely thanked by His Majesty the King, and he had a retirement package alongside some other little extra tidbits. We won't reveal them all because obviously they're rather personal. But it's interesting to note because a lot of people say, when people like that who've worked so closely with royalty, why do they write books? Well, I'm assured that while Sir Edward is not planning to write a salacious book, he is naturally, and as ever we have to say allegedly, fielding offers perhaps for a pictorial memorial, if you like, memoir of his time working alongside the monarch. All very early days, as I'm sure you can imagine, and no doubt with the full blessing of His Majesty the King. Not forget, of course, that Sir Edward and our late monarch got on incredibly well, and he was there through so many pivotal moments of her reign for, quite a number of years. But it's this particular thing that apparently, according to a very good source, truly hurt Sir Edward, and it was all regarding Prince Harry. You see, apparently, according to a very good source, Sir Edward was the bane of a problem for Prince Harry having access to his grandmother. That's right. And when you think about it, a lot of people are stating, well, who were the people that Harry was referring to in that now infamous interview, if you recall, when he stated that he was checking up to make sure the right people were around Her Majesty the Queen. If you remember, he dashed back to America to sit down with a news channel to reveal that. But really, Harry already decided to out these particular individuals in his book Spare. Makes an interesting paragraph. Let me explain. Here's that further criticism for Young was made by Harry in his Spare memoir, which was published in January of this year. The prince assigned senior courtiers epithets in the book, with the three main figures referred to as insects. Harry claims that he dealt mostly with just three courtiers, all middle-aged white men who'd managed to consolidate power through a series of bold Machiavellian manoeuvres. They had normal names, exceedingly British names, but they sought more easily into the zoological categories: the bee, the fly, and the wasp. Now, while Prince Harry did not name Edward Young in Spare, through a number of news outlets identified him as the bee, whom Harry went on to describe as oval-faced, fuzzy, tended to glide around with great, slitheriness and poise. But apparently, he was so poised that people didn't fear him because, he was so good at blending in. He states it was a big mistake, sometimes their very last mistake. According to that source, you see, Sir Edward feels really put out by those comments, and naturally so, because, as he also told a very close source, it wasn't about being denied access to our wonderful monarch. Harry chose not to return, particularly for personal invites, for holidays to Balmoral, return flights back to Windsor, just simply spending time with our late monarch, who knew how ill she was. If you recall, both Harry and Meghan declined numerous invitations. So you can understand if Sir Edward did want to right the wrongs, of which I'm sure he won't do publicly. But wouldn't it be nice, really, to get his side, his version of events? Because once again, there you have a man dedicated to service, looking after our wonderful monarch in her times of need, directly after the passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip. And there you have once again Prince Harry able to put into print what he thought about this man who'd done so much for our late and wonderful Her Majesty the Queen. As ever, I'd love to know your thoughts about this particular story in the comments below. Would you buy a book by Sir Edward Young? Would you find it fascinating? Or was Harry right to condemn him so publicly in his best-selling book Spare? As ever, let me know. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.